Hi guys, welcome to Basement Supercar Build, the channel where we see if an average guy like me can design and build his own mid-engine car. This video will be a highlights video of the work that was finished this week. If you want to see the actual work take place, watch the full-length video for this week. And with that out of the way, let's get started on this week's video.
Well, here is the first fuel tank. It's about half welded. That's as far as I can take it today. You can see I tack welded on the inside in some places to hold everything square, and then I did my final welds on the outside of the tank, of course. But that's roughly where the tank sits. It will have some rubber between the tank and any other metal that it touches underneath the back, bottom, and sides, just as an insulator, and then it will fasten down, screw down, snug against that rubber. I'm not sure that the tank is leak proof. I'm not sure of my welding capabilities. I will be very surprised if I can weld both tanks and not have any leaks at all, but if I will pressure test them when I'm done, and if I find any leaks, I'll try to patch them by welding that area again slightly, or if not, there are sealant materials like they use for airplanes that bond and make leak tight bonds very well. Forgot what the material is called. There's different brand names, but it's like polysulfate or polysulfide or something like that. But anyway, it's very good material, and if I have any leaks I can't weld and fix, I will use that to stop the leaks. But hopefully I'll be able to weld everything and make it leak proof, but we'll see. I'd pull that tank out and show you the welds, but it's still warm. It's really warm. I don't want to lift it out with my hands. But anyway, I'll show you the welds at a later time when the tank is completely finished. All of the pieces that are left to put in, the top and the left end, need a lot of holes cut in them before I weld them in. I'd like to cut the holes in those plates first, and then the last thing I'll put on is that large front cover on the tank. I'll weld it in last, and after I know everything else is finished and looks good. But I don't have enough parts to start welding on the second tank. I'm still waiting on one sheet of material to come in. These are the components that are left for the first tank, and then here's a pile for the second tank. But I just don't have the right pieces here to start welding it together yet, so I'm going to wait on that. And I guess I'm going to call it a day. Although it's early today, I don't really have anything else I can do. I need to get on a computer and order some parts to finish this tank. So I guess I'm going to go play on the computer a few hours, and we'll stop the video here. Well, I finished welding, capping off these areas that I cut away here for clearance. Probably hard to see, but now there's clearance around the air conditioner compressor, and over on this side there's clearance around the alternator, and I'm happy with all of that. It was really hard to weld. The welds are not very pretty. I couldn't reach it, I couldn't see it, and because of the contorted ways I had to sit to weld, I was having to activate the foot pedal switch of the welder with my knee, and my leg would cramp in the middle of the weld because of the way I was laying. But it's finished, and it's not really a strength place in the car. It is more just for looks or capping off the openings. And the only tight spot is right here. This boss around this bolt here is close to touching that weld, but the front of the engine is tilted down slightly. And I think when the transaxle's in the car and is raised up perfectly level, that'll have more clearance and be sufficient. If not, the high spot is my weld. I can grind my weld down just a little and give myself another 1/8 of an inch clearance or so there. But that's what it's looking like. I'm glad to have that complete. Still playing with hose routing, waiting on this straight nipple here to come in for the thermostat cover so I can plug that in straight. And I think I'm done for today. I don't have anything else that I can work on. I'm waiting on supplies and materials to come in. I need to go to the welding store tomorrow and pick up another tank of argon and some welding rods, almost out of both. And I'll need to continue on welding the fuel tanks just as soon as the metal gets here, which will be in about 1 or 2 more days. But calling it a day early today, taking a break, and we'll be back on fuel tanks here in another day or 2. A little update on the fuel tanks. This is what one of the fuel tanks looks like. It's welded up to the point of needing the top caps in the front. Had the 2-inch nipple welded in here for the crossover tube, and I have the 2-inch tube laying here. This will be the crossover tube and the filler neck tube. The fuel pump is here for the Holley fuel pump for the tank. Still got to cut a hole in the top of the tanks. 2 tank tops. This is the other tank. I've got the front and the tops just sitting in position, just fitting, just making sure I get the edges cut and sanded close before I start welding this up. It's the other 2-inch nipple on the left-hand fuel tank. This is one of the tank tops. This will be the other. This will be the one behind the driver's seat. This is where the fuel filler neck will attach to put fuel in the tanks. This will be like a pressure relief line, so when you're filling the tanks, the air can escape from the tanks. And the fuel pump will go here, so this one will have 3 things mounted in the top of it. This is the tank behind the passenger seat. It will have the same bleed off valve or line here in the center of the tank, or I may move it to the side, I haven't decided yet. And on this side, this tank will also need something inside a float for a fuel sender to read how much fuel is left in the tanks. I haven't bought that yet because I don't know what I need to purchase yet. None of the aftermarket fuel senders are quite deep enough to work in this tank, and they have a different ohms reading or resistance reading out for the fuel gauges than a stock gauge uses, so I'm not quite sure what to buy to make those function together, make them compatible, but I've got to work on that. I might have to use an aftermarket fuel gauge with an aftermarket sending unit, or figure out some way to convert the signal coming out of an aftermarket fuel sender to a factory gauge. But still things I've got to figure out. But I want to drill the holes in all of these tops, or both of these tops, before I weld that on. It's be much easier to drill these holes. And I've got to figure out the exact locations of where I want them, so I'm going to have to do some research and some planning tonight before I start welding on these more. It's storming outside. You may hear the thunder and lightning, but I want to finish these and get them exactly in the right location and the holes drilled before I start finishing and closing these tanks. So I'm going to do a little research tonight and in the morning, and we'll work on these tanks more tomorrow and see if we can get at least one of them sealed this weekend, if not both. But that's quite a bit of welding and fitting, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, we should be mounting tanks in the car here in just a few days to a week. Also have this rubber to glue, I hope it'll glue to the tanks underneath the bottom and on the sides, so I don't have metal to metal anywhere. This will be what the tank sits in, is cradled in, and will clamp down to the car. So I still have to make a couple of clamps and weld to this tank once they're sealed closed, just to be able to bolt it in the car solid. But that is my fuel tank update.